Welcome back to Moving Pictures. I am your host, Predacon Paul. Decepticon Doug isn't in today. But this is going to be the first of a new sequence of videos that we're going to release that introduce members of the cast, like myself, Predacon Paul. Decepticon Doug, he's going to get his own episode. Allie is going to get her own episode. Jamie is going to get her own episode. And there's one more cast member, one more character that doesn't really need any introduction, but she's going to get one anyways. Navi Cat. This is Navi. You might recognize her from episodes like Tangled Web. I think Guerrilla Warfare. I think she was in Guerrilla Warfare. There's definitely Coming of the Fusors. She plays the part, very convincingly I might add, of the character we all know as Inferno. So, this is Navi, our very, very deaf cat. Hello, kitty cat. Captain Meow Meow. Captain Meow Meow. Wake up from your slumber, beast. Nothing. She didn't wake up at all. She didn't even flinch. So, how we met her, Jamie and I used to go to this pet store, which is nearby, and we used to sit down and just hang out with like the little cats, and there was like bunnies and stuff there at one point.
Mostly just kitties. Lots of kitties. We just cuddled them.
Lots of kitty cats, and we'd sit there and we'd open the cage. They'd come out and we'd cuddle them for a little bit. But one day, I go sitting down, and we had just finished having this conversation like 2 days prior to this about how cats and dogs, they sort of like you don't pick your cat, your cat picks you. And one day we go in and I sit down with in front of her cage, which is on the bottom, and one of the people who works there was like, "Oh, you're probably not going to have very much luck with her. She tends to scare people, and she's very antisocial." And
she has a weird meow.
She has a weird meow, is what they say. It's really loud, and it's very like, and it scares people. It scares the little kids that come to see her, and everyone thinks that she's yelling at them. And lo and behold, the whole reason why she meows so loud is because she's deaf. She's got to feel her vocal cords. So I sit down, I open the cage, and all of a sudden she comes walking out, and then she falls. I'm sitting just like I am now, and she sits in my lap and falls asleep. And I was like, "Oh, babe, what do we do?" And you're like, "Well, I guess we've been chosen." And then we filled out the paperwork, and then the rest is history. Beast Wars history. So
the rest is history. That's not the full story.
What's the rest of the story? Here,
full story. She's getting Nancy. She's getting Nancy. She likes cuddling me.
She loves me.
Okay, so I get to never rename your cat. 100%. I respect. So she likes to cuddle me better. But her name was Silver, and I'm like, why is she Silver? She doesn't look. I mean, she's older now. There's a little more white. But I'm like, why is she Silver? She doesn't look like a cat should be named Silver. So before we found out she was deaf, we knew she was loud, and she would just, when she would yowl, she would just yowl, and you'd be like, hey! And she kept yowling. She was just so loud, and you kept talking to her, and she would still meow at you, and you're like, oh my god, it's like she never listens to you. So we jokingly kind of came up with how she was Navi. Everyone always plays Legend of Zelda, and Navi's always like, hey, look, listen. Never stops. By the end of the game, you're like, oh my god, shut up. So as much as you love Navi in the game, she drives you nuts. And so when we first got her, we started calling her Navi because she constantly yowled and wouldn't respond. Every time you would talk to her, she would still meow at you. So that was sort of where she got her name. We ended up changing
it from Silver to Navi, which was appropriate because now we're calling out to her going, look, listen, and she's not listening at all. So, a funny story. So, this is how we discover that she's deaf.
Whenever we'd call to her, I was amazed that we always made her jump. So, I was in the bedroom one day, and the door was closed, and she had been in there, and she was sniffing at the door, and I was like, hey, Navi, and I'm talking to her, and she's still sniffing the door, and I'm talking to her, and I go up behind her, and I touch her, and she jumps, and I was like, what the fuck? Or what the heck? So, yeah. That was basically the biggest clue. We're like, I think she's really deaf.
And she always slept through us vacuuming. Like we'd be vacuuming the entire living room,
We
or the
tried
hallway.
it. We purposely tried it after that, but
She just slept right through it. And so then we took her to the vet, and they're like, yeah, she's definitely deaf. So we're like, okay, we have a deaf kitty cat. So that's her story. Her credits, she's going to have an IMDb page pretty soon here. She's kind of a big deal in the cat community. And yeah, that's Navi Cat for you.
let's make her say. She'll segue. Let's go get her just one more time.
Okay.
Ow, 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 ow. Just do something.
Okay. Say goodbye, Navi.
Say bye.
Okay. She's
Done.
We love you.
Bye.
Jamie is going to get her episode, and